Welcome back to AP Camouflage History. Today we're going to be talking about Austrian camouflage. Austria, Germany's quirked up younger brother. They've given us so many great things like Arnold Schwarzenegger, Mozart, and that one Billy Joel song. Anyway, Austria's modern army traces its roots all the way back to the Gendarmerie, a secret military force created by the Western Allies just after World War II. It used Austria's regular police force as cover, being intended to deal with coups, illegal border crossings, and other intrusions. The Gendarmerie was equipped with American weapons, given military training, and mostly led by former Wehrmacht officers of the Second World War. In the event of a Soviet invasion, the Gendarmerie planted caches of weapons, ammunition, and other supplies all over the Austrian countryside, many of which have still not been found. Which means that you should get out there and look. There's probably Browning A4s hidden somewhere out there in the Tyrolean wilderness. It was the men of the Gendarmerie that would become the core of the Austrian Bundesheer when it was formed in 1955. After its formation, the Bundesheer began to experiment with camouflage uniforms, quickly coming up with a pattern that was very closely based on Waffen-SS P-Dot. Known as K4, Austrian P-Dot, or patchwork carpet in Austria, this camo pattern actually goes pretty dang hard. The P-Dot pattern itself is made up of 4 colors: maroon, mauve, pinkish gray, and pea green. Alongside normal P-Dot uniform items like pants or parkas, a reversible shelter half was also issued with P-Dot on one side and a locally made Sumpftarn variant known as Steintarn on the other side. The Bundesheer made 2 uniforms in the P-Dot pattern, KAZ 57 and KAZ 59. By the way, KAZ stands for Kampfanzug, which is combat uniform in German when translated to English, and you'll be hearing that a lot throughout the rest of this video. Around this time, the Bundesheer was a small force with a similarly small budget, and when politicians started pinching pennies, the camouflage uniform was one of the first things to go. Its resemblance to World War II era German patterns may have also contributed to its retirement, but we can't find any sources to say that for sure. At first, soldiers were told they could only wear the camouflage on major exercises or during actual combat, and eventually it was just phased out almost entirely. It continues to see use with Austrian snipers and OPFOR units for training purposes, but aside from that, P-Dot is completely gone from the Austrian forces. After P-Dot was retired, a new uniform entered the scene, KAZ 75, later updated to KAZ 03. It was printed in a color known in Austria as RAL 7013, a solid olive drab. While it isn't a camouflage pattern, this uniform still plays a pivotal role in our story. It gained a cult following in Austria thanks not only to its effectiveness, but also because it simply goes hard. Not gonna lie, the Austrian army is always cooking up some bangers. Plain green fabric is inexpensive, it looks professional, and in a way it symbolizes Austria's permanent neutrality. RAL 7013 has been worn for nearly 50 years and is still in service today, but is slated to be replaced by the latest and greatest Austrian camouflage, Tarnenzugnoi. The story of Tarnenzugnoi begins in 2008 with 2 camouflage patterns tested by the Jagdkommando, one developed for arid environments and the other for woodland. These 2 patterns utilized digital shapes, which was kind of all the rage at the time, but never ended up being adopted. However, this experiment paved the way for later developments which would eventually become Tarnenzugnoi. Fun fact, the leftover digital fabric was actually used to make face masks during the COVID pandemic. Before we go further in the video, we have to thank our sponsors, you. Okay, so basically we run a company called Americana Pipe Dream, and by becoming a customer of that company, you support the content that we create, and we are very grateful for every single order that is placed through AmericanaPipeDream.com. And of course, the latest drop is indeed the Austrian Tarnenzugnoi camouflage pattern. We have pants, combat shirts, field shirts, and these very comfy beige Tarnenzug lined parkas. If you're not trying to spend any money, that is completely fine. Just go ahead and hit the like button, comment, and make sure that you're subscribed to the AP YouTube channel. This brings us to fucking Tarnenzugnoi, also known as Kürbiskanul Eierspeise. Good lord, I see why my 5th great grandpa left Germany. In a stroke of unparalleled genius, Austria chose the name Tarnenzugnoi, translating to new camouflage suit. What's going on, Austria? I thought you were the nation of Freud and Mozart. Maybe you need to climb down from those Alps and let a little more oxygen get to your brain. This is the first standard issue Austrian camouflage pattern in over half a century, so it's kind of a big deal. Such a big deal, in fact, that the Austrian Defense Ministry is already in touch with us and are very curious as to how we acquired this batch of goodies. Wer's findet, darf's behalten. I suppose I would like to apologize for the Austrian soldiers who are still waiting, sitting there in their olive drab uniforms waiting to get this stuff, but like, it's just too cool for us to pass up, so like,
I read about. Did you say want?
It's intended to be a multi-environment camouflage, following the multicam trend that has swept through Western militaries over the past decade. However, it's not just a clone or or recoloration of multicam like many of the other multi-terrain patterns out there on the market currently. It's actually a completely indigenous Austrian design that uses spots and lines of spots to conceal its users. Tarnanzugnoi consists of 6 colors: gray, dark olive, medium olive, lichen green, khaki, and sand. This color combination is supposed to conceal Bundesheer soldiers in locations all across Austria, supposedly even urban settings. The pattern was also designed to confuse night vision devices and similar optics. On top of its practical purpose, it's also supposed to foster a unique identity for Austrian servicemen, especially on overseas peacekeeping missions, because in the past they've had to wear US Woodland or DCU. Tarnanzugnoi began its development in 2016 when Defense Minister Hans-Peter Doskozil authorized the Army Clothing Institute to begin testing new camouflage patterns. They were given until November of 2017 to present 3 new options for camouflage uniforms. Unfortunately, there's not much information out there on the actual testing and development process, but we can assume that several existing patterns from other nations as well as a couple new patterns developed by the Institute were trialed. As of now, we can't really find many details about it, so maybe we'll revisit it in the future. After the testing and development were complete, it was finally time to reveal the new pattern to both the public and the soldiers of the Bundesheer. It was first revealed in 2017 at a press conference held by their defense minister, who used 2 mock-ups of the uniform to demonstrate it to viewers. In 2019, the uniform was first issued to soldiers, with the 18th Styrian Jaeger Battalion being the first to receive them. The Austrian military plans to roll out 3,000 to 4,000 of the uniforms each year until the entire military has transitioned. No, they wokeified the Bundesheer. Plans for variations of the pattern with different color schemes have also been proposed, mostly for arid or winter environments. For example, this arid version, commonly known as beige Tarnanzug, was first unveiled in 2021 and actually began being issued earlier this year to Austrian servicemen serving in Lebanon. Alright, well that's about the whole story of Tarnanzugnoi as of now. I will let you guys know if we are banned from entering the country of Austria, because it's looking pretty likely at this point. Anyway, visit AmericanaPipedream.com, get yourself some brand new Austrian camouflage. By the way, if you're from the EU and you want to buy some, sorry, we're not going to be shipping it to the EU to appease Claudia Tanner. I'm very afraid of her. There's no telling what she might do. I'm just kidding. She seems like a very nice woman.